So we've created this scene 4 project, and we know it's down here at the bottom because we created it and this area changed. But I want to point out a couple things with how this timeline is laid out. It's important to know this. In this toolbar that goes across the top of the project, you'll notice in the middle here it says scene 4. This label that shows up here is always going to tell you what you're looking at in the project at the bottom. So this is going to change depending on if you're inside of a compound clip or you're in this project or next project, whichever one that shows up here. And you can actually use the little arrows on the left and the right side to navigate between the history of what was displayed here at the bottom. That's called the timeline history you can navigate between. But we'll get into that a little bit later, but the important thing here to note is that we know scene 4 is loaded at the bottom here because of that label. Now this area is our timeline. You can see timecode showing up at the top here and all these little tick marks. And this is just like a ruler if you're measuring something on the desk in front of you. It's the same thing. All these marks are just telling you where you are based on time. So at the beginning of the project, we had our starting time code set to all zeros, so that's 0. And as you go across, the time code grows. And again, if you're not familiar with time code, showing up in the middle here, you have hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So that's what all those numbers are that we're seeing there. And then down here, we have the actual primary storyline and our entire timeline. So the primary storyline is this darker gray bar that goes through the middle of the timeline right now. And then you have areas above it and below it for other things. So the primary storyline is really important because essentially that is the primary clips of your project. So in our case, we're going to be editing this little short film together. So these main clips where you're seeing these characters talking to each other, that's the primary action. And that's the main point of the scene, is to look at those characters. So they're going to go on to the primary storyline. We might have audio clips like sound effects, or maybe there's some background music. Those types of clips are secondary. And they're going to go below the primary storyline and connect to the main clips. So if you are trying to picture why you would use the primary storyline versus other, just think of the clips that you're adding. Are they the main focus of your story, or are they enhancing the primary video that you're looking at? So that's just kind of an overview. We'll see that a lot more in demos further on. But that's the primary storyline. As you add clips, they're just going to drop right on to that primary storyline. So let's actually see that in action here. I'm going to go up here and look at one of these clips where we have this character walking up. And he talks, and then the other character walks away. So that's kind of the entire scene. I'm just going to drop this onto the primary storyline. All I did is click, and I'm dragging it right down to the bottom here. And when I let go, it puts that clip right onto the primary storyline. Let me go ahead and delete this clip. I'm going to show that again. Just clicking and dragging this down. You'll notice right when I get anywhere into the timeline, we actually see that light blue area. It's letting me know if I drop this clip, wherever I drop it, anywhere here on the timeline, it's going to put it right into this space here, which is pretty cool. And that feature is a feature of what we call the magnetic timeline. The magnetic part is when it's just dropping it right into a specific spot. It's kind of choosing where that clip's going to go. So let me go and grab this second clip, and I'm going to drag that down as well. Notice anywhere I drop this, it's going to connect it magnetically to the first clip. So I can just drop it right there. So if you're building a project and you're adding clip after clip after clip, you'll be able to use the magnetic timeline because you won't have to specifically drop the clip in right at a specific point. You can just drop it right in, and it's going to add it magnetically to the end of the project there. And we just keep building, and as you see, the timeline starts at the beginning and it gets longer and longer based on the clips you add to that. Now, in addition to that, if you just want to add, say I want to add this clip directly to the end, you don't have to waste all this time dragging the clips onto the primary storyline. You actually have a set of buttons here that you can use instead. And this third button here is the append to the primary storyline button. So this append button will just take whatever clip you have selected and add it to the end of the storyline. So I'm going to click that and notice it added it right to the end there. Let me scroll down and take a look at some of these other clips where we have the reverse. So I'm going to click this clip and append it. And notice it's just putting it right at the end of the storyline. I can actually click anywhere on the timeline and use the shortcut command and the minus key. Command minus a couple times, and I'm zooming out of the timeline so I can see all those clips together. And this way, if I select a clip and append it, you can very easily see what it's doing to that clip. Now, in addition to that, as much as these buttons save time, keyboard shortcuts, if you can learn a shortcut, that's going to save you even more time. So notice in the little tooltip that popped up, at the end of it, it's got a little E listed there. That's actually the shortcut. So if a clip is selected here in the browser, just press the E button or E key on your keyboard, and that's going to append that clip that's selected to the end of the timeline. So you can see very quickly I can go through and select clips and start lining them up all on that timeline. And you can certainly click on a clip, hold shift, click on another clip to select a whole bunch of them, and then press E to append all of those at the same time. So take a little bit of time right now and start building a timeline. Just use that E key to append a bunch of clips onto the primary storyline, and that's going to build your project. If you've marked clips as favorite, you can certainly go up and select to see just the favorite clips in your browser here, and just start appending all of those in the order that you want onto the primary storyline. Don't worry, all of these clips that you're adding are always up in the browser so you can get them again. So if you add a clip that you didn't mean to add, just click on that clip and hit the delete key to remove it from that project. Now that you've seen some of what the primary storyline can do for you and how you can append some clips to it, in the next video we're going to dive a little bit deeper and look more about navigating around your timeline and how to more selectively add things in specific spots.